All right, we'll get started. Thanks everyone for coming to Stream D, room 211, here at the ASA Cyber Conference. I'm Michael McKinnon, the Deputy Chair of the Melbourne branch. Are we having a good conference so far? Yes. Excellent. All right, so we've got a wonderful speaker next, Annette Peploe, and her talk is Technology Disrupting the Child Sex Trafficking Industry. Would you please give her a warm welcome?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me in the latter part of the day, the stretch of the day. Before I continue, I'd just like to say that my views does not in any way reflect where I work. Just get that. Does not in any way reflect where I work as a school chaplain. And the other thing that I just want to mention that along the way, as I discuss what trafficking is, for those of you who may have, there's a trigger basically that there's something that might trigger you if you have been sexually abused or you know of someone. And so I won't feel offended anyway if you want to just step out during the section. It's just a short section that covers, but I just wanted to let you know. So who is Annette Peploe? I am a cybersecurity student at Box Hill TAFE, as well as a chaplain. So I volunteer at the airport as a chaplain. Most people don't understand what a chaplain is. Basically, you're all aware of Are You OK Day? I live that life 24/7. So my job entails, are you okay? I got your back. How are you going? I'm very passionate about working with kids. So the other 4 days, that's my employed work. I work as a school chaplain. One in a sort of average area, and the other one is in a very high risk area. And so I enjoy blending the two because it's my passion to keep children safe. So why would cybersecurity and child sex trafficking, how does that come together? Well, human trafficking is a 150 billion a year industry globally, and 2/3 come from sex trafficking. So cybersecurity, you would deal with vulnerability and risk and threats. So just like you would be concerned about your money being stolen from you, your medical records being stolen from you, and all the risks that go around your life, your business's life, your networks, we unfortunately have to deal with the fact that we have children's lives at risk, people's lives at risk. And we can actually use cybersecurity techniques and technology to combat this. And this is what I'm passionate about. And why I decided to study cybersecurity at 47 years old, started last year, I'm doing it part-time. I went back to South Africa in 2014 with my daughter. I've lived here for many years. Hard to tell with my accent. I still haven't picked up the Aussie accent. My daughter's sounds Aussie. She's 14 now. And I went back to South Africa thinking, yeah, it's just my daughter and I. Maybe it's time to go back and connect with the family. Yes, it's high risk area, South Africa in general. But while I was there, I actually found myself crying on my way to work all the time because I was listening to the news. And there was always children going missing. Their body parts being taken for muti. Muti in South Africa is where they actually cut the heart out of the kidneys or different parts according to what witch doctors want. And it's just common because of silly beliefs that people still have up until today. And I realized, okay, I'm here. You've got to toil the land where you are. You've got to be of some benefit. And while I was in South Africa, I decided I'm going to volunteer for an organization called Missing Children South Africa. And I learned that every 5 hours a child goes missing. It's so easy to cross the borders in South Africa. We've got people still coming in without proper documentation. I'm so glad we're in Australia because they're so strict on that. It's very hard to get into Australia, honestly. And that was my passion. And then I decided after a year and a half that as a single mother, I didn't want to live in South Africa anymore and put my life at risk and be too scared to go visit my mom because I'd be hijacked or, and I just decided the risks weren't all that good, and now we communicate with WhatsApp and Skype with the rest of the family. But I came back and I decided, even though I'm in Australia and I might not be hearing about it as much, I need to do something more. And it's not just that children are being sold on the surface web. I found out that it's actually the dark web where most of this is happening. So just as a business, the human traffickers are doing exactly what we do in business. Prior to becoming a chaplain, I worked in the telecommunications industry, and I was an account manager, and you do whatever you can to bring in revenue. So whatever technology is available at the time, you as an account manager, you train your guys on the intranet using whatever tools. And this is exactly what they're doing. They're using whatever technology, apps, phones, online, everything for them to get the most revenue. This is my ideal goal. Not there yet. 9 units down, 7 more to go. Patient with the cybersecurity student. So this woman is Sharon Nemirovsky. She's the head of White Hat, an Israeli cybersecurity firm, and she's staffed by former military agents. So their methods are veiled in secrecy. They infiltrate the cybercrime sites using false identities to gather information of pedophiles and information to rescue victims and catching the traffickers. So just like you can use technology for bad, you can use it for good as well. I'm sure you've heard of hacktivists. They were actually called anonymous, where they worked outside of the boundaries of the law. You still smile, okay, it's wrong what they did, but they did something great. They actually found a lot of images of children, child pornography, and they actually told the owners of the site on the dark web to take it down. And if they didn't do it, they were going to reveal the people that were actually viewing the images. And the organization actually didn't take them serious, and then they did. I think it was about 1,200 and odd people that they actually named and shamed. I actually get excited about that. I know it's not completely according to the law, but they did something great. So I'll eventually get to that stage. So just a bit of stats. The International Labour Organization states that, according to their research, there are 40.3 million victims of human trafficking globally. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, according to their stats between 2010 and 2015, reports that online sex trafficking has increased by 800% due to increased use of the internet to sell children for sex. So I'll give you the information, and towards the end I'll explain to you what tools we can use and what other companies abroad are using, and how we can get excited to do something for Australia to help the Victoria Police, to help the National Police in Australia to speed things up. So if you look at the second stat, I find that as a chaplain, I'll give you a bit of information what it is, because not everybody understands what it is. So in the school, we're the safe person for the kids to talk to. So I'm in primary schools. So we get referred, has to have permission from the parents, where a teacher could say, Emily's been going great at school, academically brilliant. But suddenly there's been a change of behavior. Could she see the chaplain? And I'll do a bit of play therapy, we'll do art. Sometimes I have to be a kid and sing songs, take my horse. And the kids just, you have to get in there with what they're at. If they're into footy, into soccer, you have to do what the kids, what connects you to the kids, because they're not going to open up and spill their guts unless they know that you're real with them and that they can trust you. So we do a lot of this information, and what I do find that a lot of the kids spend so much time online, which is actually a risk. And the parents allow them to, because it's like the computers babysit the kids. At one of the schools, it happens a lot. Mommy's a sex worker, Dad or mom's drug addicts or parents are in and out of jail, and a lot of these kids actually go home. If you ask them, what's your routine when you go home? Oh, I just get home, grab something to eat, shut the door, and I'm online till whenever. What time do you go sleep? When I want, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So these kids are tired in school, and it allows the children to be even more at risk because there is no control factors in place. Third one is quite shocking, which a lot of people in Australia don't actually know. I was lucky enough to be mentored by a lady in the AFP, and we spoke a lot about the stats just before this conference to have updated information. And basically, the data for 2017 to 2018, there was 60 referrals for forced marriage offences that was reported to the AFP. That is a shocking fact. Because we hear about things, but we don't always understand or hear about the forced marriages that are happening in Australia. So one of the schools that I'm at, 90% Muslim school, so it's not even a religious thing. It can happen in Christians, Muslims, Indians, but just predominantly the stats was from those specific areas. And it's a cultural thing, where a lot of migrants are coming in to Australia, first generation, second, third. But what they did back in India, I'm just using these examples, so it's not directed at anybody's background. In India or in Lebanon, for example, is a country where there is actually no age for a child to be married. There's no age restriction. I actually got so excited that in Indonesia recently they barred child marriages. I went, yes! I shared it on Facebook Global because that's a win to keep children safe. So yes, this is happening in Australia, and actually it's one of the biggest things that the AFP has to deal with. It's important to see what is forced marriage. So in Australia it was criminalised in 2013. In Australia, it's its biggest form of sex trafficking. Under the Commonwealth law, a forced marriage is one where a person gets married without freely or fully consenting because they have been coerced, threatened or deceived, or because they are incapable of understanding the nature and effect of the marriage ceremony for reasons including age and mental capacity. With children, they just have to be under 18. So I'll give you an example. Very, very common in Glenroy Broadmeadows area. Kids get told, we're going on holiday to Lebanon. The kids are so excited. High school especially, and the kids actually, most of them, don't get to come back from the holiday because they are coerced. And it's not just for money or to please mommy and daddy, it's for visas as well. They get married to some old uncle or some stranger in exchange for cash. And many of these girls only get to come back to Australia when they're 18 because they know they'll get into trouble because it's a crime. So when you chat to a lot of the parents, they always say that, even the police, they say, if you walk around in Broadmeadows, you can see that at the shopping centre, young moms with kids, just doesn't make sense the age, because they actually are raped, molested, and they didn't actually have a choice because mommy and daddy basically forced them or sold them. So as a chaplain, at least we have this opportunity to speak to the communities, and I'm hoping that whatever industry that you're in, it will encourage you to actually shed light to families or friends, or if you hear about things happening, to actually pass this information and to say to people, hey, that's wrong, that's not the right thing to do. So we move from Australia. I'll just use 2 countries. There's a lot happening. So in India, every 3 minutes, a girl is sold into sex slavery. Another thing that happens is that dads think they're doing the right thing, whereby they think that if he's got like a few girls and he sells her off to some fancy American guy, oh, my child will be looked after, educated, and she will have a life. But these sex traffickers are so wise, they know exactly what they're doing. They know which areas to go to. They know what to say, what to do. And I'll tell you later about a lady who's working in this area and using technology to share the word. So They're actually paying the price, $200 or whatever, it's a lot in Indian rupees. And dad is not aware, dad and mom is not even aware that this child is going to be broken into, molested, raped, and forced to have sex with lots of men as soon as they leave India. In South Africa, every 5 hours, a child goes missing. It's worse, it's bad in South Africa now, but I remember even as a kid growing up, when I used to be in an area where I felt unsafe as a teenager, I remember doing the walk like the boys walk. I used to do that. I used to have my hair short. I didn't dress a certain way because I always felt I had to protect myself. And it's even worse now in South Africa. Okay. We're halfway through. I want you to have a look at these gorgeous, gorgeous faces. Maybe the boy on the top looks like maybe a child that you sponsor through World Vision or any organization, your neighbor, your own teenage girls. And now I want you to look at these faces. Can you raise your hand if you've ever heard of a guy named Matthew Graham? Peter Scully and Matthew Falder. Okay, I'm going to just give you a bit of a rundown as to why we need to upskill ourselves to take down people like this. Matthew Graham and Peter Scully, first of all, they give Melbourne a bad name. They're both from Melbourne. Matthew Graham, actually the good thing is they've all been caught, which is wonderful. So Matthew Graham was actually under a name called Lux, and he was running pedophiles, networks all over the world. Thousands of people were viewing, paying for his footage. All three of them was into something which is called hardcore, which is, and this is the trigger warning, where they actually were selling material and causing abuse of children. That was basically somebody in Australia could be ordering somebody in the Philippines to say, force the child to do this act, force the child to have sex with an animal, force these kids to have sex with each other. Really, really gruesome, gruesome, gruesome stuff. He actually called his one hurt to the core. It was so bad, so disgusting. And when the FBI, when they finally worked out where the location was and they tracked down the house, and it was actually typical family home. Mom, dad, brother, and the son. And when they swooped in on the house, the police first thought that it was going to definitely be the dad. He's over his 50s and that. Because there's no way, this child was just too young, 21 years old. Studying at La Trobe University. Pimple-faced, acne-faced kid. Who would have thought? So this is to make you aware that it can happen right under your nose. He's not necessarily being the one that is doing it, or we don't know if he has done anything. What they did do is, when they caught him, he thought he had all his information, but there was two pornographic images, hardcore images of, one was a baby that was already deceased being stomped on, another just as bad image, and which was cached on his mobile phone. And when they eventually somehow managed to get him to give the information, the password to his computer, it was a 68-number password. These guys know what they're doing. And they caught this 21-year-old. 2 years later, he was convicted. And Melbourne, in a local suburb. Moving on to Peter Scully. He worked actually with Peter Scully. Peter Scully was absolutely disgusting. He moved to the Philippines. He was being chased after in any case. He was trying to escape Australia. And he wasn't registered as a pedophile here, but what he done in the Philippines, he actually got his underage girlfriend to lure kids and then force them to do sexual acts with each other online. People were paying him up to $10,000. Businessmen, different people, they were just into this new hardcore trend to harm kids. He even got to the point where there was this one girl, what is it called? there was a child, I forget what his name now, but she was only 18 months being abused. He managed to get kids from a mother saying, I will home your kids, feed them, educate them. And she thought, this wonderful white man, yes, my child's life is saved, and this is what happened. So he was also caught. Yes, he ran something called, it was called the destruction of Daisy. And this information traveled, and people spent a lot of money just to see how this 18-year-old was being abused. He rented actually different houses, and then the one that was actually really, really bad that he did was he actually caused one of the kids to actually dig her own grave, and then they found the skeletal remains when they did eventually catch this guy. Finally, Matthew Folder, just as bad. Uni student, Cambridge University student. What's his geo? He was studying, I don't know what his studying meant. Just normal guy. The point is, we just don't know who we're dealing with. And so, on the surface, they look like normal guys. But if we are able to infiltrate the dark web, we will find these people that you're not able to find on the surface web. And so, basically, he tricked a young girl, and she wanted to buy a dog, basically. And he said to her, I'll pay whatever you want for the dog on condition that you show me images of yourself. And he went on to doing those type of practices until the girl wanted to commit suicide. And I'm not going to go more into what he done. I think what I've explained about the other two is basically enough. But I enjoyed watching the video on Facebook. It was actually clearly visible. You can Google that. And he was actually so shocked that they caught him. But it was just absolutely horrendous. So what can we do to protect our kids? I mean, this little girl was just posting an ad wanting to find a dog. But if you're a mother, if you don't have kids, they say it takes a village to raise a kid. If you're in a school, working community, or you've just your family's kids, it's important that we make them aware of what unwanted contact and grooming is. Time online, I spoke about the kids that just sit on the computer whole day, playing games, whatever, it's their babysitter. Online gaming and how strangers can chat to them. Socializing online, cyberbullying. Sometimes even Instagram chats and that type of thing. Strangers will pose as teenagers and say, send me a picture. Just one photo, we're friends, and then they'll send the picture, not knowing that if you use EXIF Viewer, which you can just download on Google Chrome or whatever your program that you're using, that if you actually click on the picture, you've actually given up so much more information about yourself without having to actually say your address or your details. And I'll show you later how you can do that. So the good thing being in the position that I am, so I believe you've got to use what you've got and do what you can wherever you are. I got to do the e-safety a couple of months ago at our school. There's a lot of barriers. Some of them don't speak English properly, so we had to change the words a bit according to the information that we got from the e-safety commission. And a lot of words like the Muslims would say haram if you use pornography or different words. So we just had to edit it for the community, and we had a full house. It was wonderful. Parents didn't even know what Instagram is, what Spotify is. There was so much that they didn't know, and it was great for them to learn and to ask questions. So many of you in the room would like to know, how can we use technology? So while technology can advance our goals, it is not a universal remedy. There's no algorithm or app to stop child sex trafficking. But there are, however, tech tools that can help people do their jobs faster and more effectively to arrest traffickers, rescue victims, and reintegrate survivors back into society. Okay, this woman excites me. She's amazing. Not just because she's from South Africa. She's working in India. And she started a foundation called the My Choices Foundation. And if you'll see next to her is a group of fathers. She's doing a lot of work in the community because sometimes you have to educate them so that you can prevent having to remedy the situation. So a lot of people are teaching what their previous generation, how they grew up, and they just keep carrying it on. But it's important to change your generation and to break those barriers and start something new. And so this is what she's doing with her teams of volunteers. So this is the exciting thing that she's done. She's had to figure out how does she get to all the Indian villages and work out which areas are at risk. There's so much. What do you do? So she's teamed up with Quantium. And with their support, they provided a solution for them. So I'm going to go through just a couple of companies that are currently using technology to help combat sex trafficking with children. So through the use of big data and technology, they've collaborated with Cisco, and they've used advanced analytic applications to leverage crime and government data to predict when and where traffickers are likely to strike next. So they do a lot of surveys with the kids that they've maybe rescued, so that they know which areas are the busiest. So this slide is a bit blurry. Couldn't get a good high resolution. So just for an example, there's 660 villages in India where children are at risk of sex trafficking. So what they've done with the data, there's like the blue dots will, for example, signal creches and high schools and water services, childcare. So they look at all the different areas and they come up with solutions to go into those different areas with specific needs and train them in specific areas. So that's just absolutely brilliant. So we can use technology for our benefit. Okay, I was explaining to you about how, I'll just use an example, even for yourself, you'll go maybe on Tinder, you're excited, you meet this amazing person, you hardly know the person, and you maybe eventually change numbers or whatever, and you send a picture, you know. You don't know who you're actually sending the person to if you haven't met the person, but this person can find out your exact location. So what Exaviewer does, you can just download it. It's free on your computer to download it, and then you basically upload a picture, an image. I was in Healesville last week for some chaplaincy training, and I love art galleries, and that was just a picture in the art gallery. So it's just a random picture, no meaning. And then what I've done is, when you upload it, click the button. On Exaviewer, it showed the exact location. So that's where I had my 2 days training on suicide prevention last week. Exact location. So there's a danger for your children in sharing information. So this is what we need to teach kids, even ourselves, for those of you that don't know. It tells you even the make of my phone. Yeah, I haven't upgraded my phone. And it tells you so much information just by sharing a picture. So yes, you can tell the child, don't give your name when you're playing games, don't do this, specific things. But there's actually things just like sharing a picture that will actually give you they can pitch up at your door and wait for you to come home from school type of thing, just by sharing that. One more amazing organization called Thorn. Who's heard of Thorn? Yeah, Kuchner is his name, he's a actor. And he's got this organization that he's running called Thorn, where they actually use technology to curtail child sex trafficking. So according to them and their stats, there's about 150 new escort ads that are posted online every day. Somewhere in that pile of data are children who are bought and sold online for sex. So what can we use? Data mining, mapping, and advanced analytics can be utilized so that governments, international organizations, and the private sector can use to track and share information in a time-sensitive way to strengthen trafficking investigations. We can use AI bots, using artificial intelligence to deter people for online sex chats with children. I've tried it, I've used Twilio, and I've actually put information on my bot so that when people do sex ads, they normally, I looked it up, it's like $2.85 per text, and what are you wearing, and all that junk. And then basically you can program it to say, maybe you can program it to waste their time, also to program it to say that if the bot says, I'm underage and this guy keeps chatting, the program actually send a message, you need help, contact so-and-so because this is a crime. We're running short of time, so basically you can do apps for kids to make school kids' lives more fun, to learn this information, because sometimes you can say it and it doesn't actually stick. Share posts on social media. If you like my sister in South Africa, she's got a doctorate in human movement, but clueless with technology. So you can just share on social media anything. If a child goes missing, that'll help. You can even apply threat analysis, your threat analysis skills that you've got, to physical situations. You can analyze high-risk areas like Glenroy, Broadmeadows, speak to council. I'm hoping at the end of this you can connect with me and we can come up with maybe a group of us to see what we can do, and we can go back, whether it's to government or form some sort of community or some sort of meetup where we can work together. We could use crowdsourced, open source frameworks. Has anybody ever participated in Trace Labs? Can you raise your hand? Trace Labs is amazing. Just quickly, it's an event where you can actually use open source information, like you can use a fake name on Instagram or Facebook to get information of missing people, and it's becoming quite popular. That is the OSINT framework. It's a bit difficult, but what you do is you can find out usernames, addresses, boyfriends, whatever, maybe teenagers that are very much on social media, to help locate and get information on them. These are some organizations that could use our help. Red Cross, My Blue Sky, Australian Muslim Women's Centre for Human Rights,